Welcome back to Dinar Community Channel. They were called dreamers, laughed at, and told it would never happen. But today, those same people are walking into banks and walking out millionaires. The Iraqi dinar revaluation isn't a rumor anymore, it's a confirmed financial event. And the early investors who held on through years of doubt, their stories are real, their accounts are funded, and what you're about to hear might just change the way you see money, patience, and the biggest wealth shift of our generation. For decades, the idea of investing in the Iraqi dinar hovered between myth and reality, drawing a loyal group of believers who held on to hope through years of uncertainty. Laughed at by mainstream finance, ignored by traditional institutions, and often criticized as speculative at best, the dinar investment community continued to grow quietly. In 2025, that patience was rewarded. With the confirmed revaluation of the Iraqi dinar at $6.20, what was once a fringe financial pursuit transformed overnight into one of the most explosive wealth transfers of the modern era. Today, we explore the real-life stories of early investors who didn't just believe, they prepared, acted, and exchanged. These are the Dinar Millionaires. A quiet, unassuming retired mechanic named Alan Parker from Tulsa, Oklahoma, never saw himself as a currency investor. He stumbled onto the Iraqi dinar back in 2009 through an online forum he joined out of curiosity. At first, he was skeptical. The pitch sounded too good to be true, buying millions of Iraqi dinar for just a few $100s. But he did his homework, read historical data about post-conflict currencies, and over the course of 3 years accumulated just over 75 million Iraqi dinars. I wasn't trying to get rich, he says. I was hedging my future with what I could afford to lose. When the revaluation hit in June 2025, Alan didn't panic or celebrate prematurely. He called the same private exchange firm he'd kept on file for over a decade. With all his documentation in order and his holdings stored safely, he was invited to an appointment in Dallas. They treated me with respect, answered all my questions, and 3 hours later, I had confirmation of funds inbound to my trust account. Alan netted over $460 million after taxes and fees. It still hasn't sunk in. I was planning for retirement on Social Security. Now I'm planning a legacy. Meanwhile, in Toronto, Canada, a former nurse named Miriam Hussein made her first IQD purchase in 2012 after hearing about it through a Middle Eastern investment group. She had emigrated from Baghdad in the late 1990s and still followed Iraq's political and financial developments closely. For her, the dinar wasn't just an investment, it was a connection to home and a bet on Iraq's future. Over time, she accumulated just under 30 million dinar, spread across 2 bank-grade safes and several verified certificates of authenticity. When the global revaluation was confirmed, Miriam had already built her team. She had a trust attorney, an accountant familiar with foreign currency taxation, and a long-standing relationship with a currency exchange representative in Chicago. Her structured exchange was executed in 2 stages to reduce tax exposure. Her total proceeds reached nearly $180 million. Her first act post-exchange. I funded a clinic in Erbil. I promised my father before he passed that I would give back if Iraq ever rose again. This was my chance. Then there's the story of Travis and Alicia Moore, a young couple from Charlotte, North Carolina, who got into the dinar community as early as 2010. At that time, they were recent college graduates, buried under student debt, and working entry-level jobs. Travis discovered the dinar online and became obsessed with researching macroeconomic triggers, currency policy, and post-war economic patterns. Alicia was skeptical but eventually agreed to commit a small portion of their savings. Over time, they collected 20 million Iraqi dinars. When the revaluation was publicly confirmed and global rates updated to reflect the $6.20 value, Travis and Alicia were prepared. They had read everything, followed the news daily, and signed up for notifications from vetted platforms. Within 48 hours of the announcement, they had secured an appointment at a Tier 1 redemption center operated through their private wealth bank. Their total exchange, after fees and structured payouts, amounted to $124 million. We paid off all our debt, funded a college account for our son, and bought our dream property, Alicia says. But the real wealth is time. We have it now. Not all stories came without hardship. Marcus Reed, a former military contractor, invested heavily in IQD after returning from deployments in Iraq and Kuwait. He'd seen firsthand the infrastructure rebuilding, oil field development, and growing economic activity. Between 2011 and 2015, he accumulated over 100 million Iraqi dinars. But in 2017, a fire destroyed his home and part of his holdings. Insurance battles followed, and he spent years rebuilding his portfolio. People told me I was crazy to keep going, he recalls. I just knew the potential. Marcus stored his remaining IQD in a vault-managed depository in Nevada and began working with a foreign currency attorney in 2023. When the revaluation went live, he was notified by email and then phone. Within 72 hours, he was flown out to a redemption location in Houston. Despite losing nearly 40% of his original holdings, Marcus still walked away with over $370 million. I don't regret anything. That's still more than I ever imagined. And I kept my promise to my brother. We set up a Veterans Support Foundation the same week. For international investors, the revaluation posed unique challenges and rewards. Sofia Ramirez, a dual citizen of Spain and Mexico, had been following the dinar since 2014. She had converted her holdings into a digital wallet via a European forex platform regulated under EU law. When the revaluation hit, she was one of the first in line to process her exchange through a Swiss intermediary working in coordination with Middle Eastern banks. The transaction, spread across multiple currencies, netted her nearly $210 million in USD equivalents. Her story is unique not just for the numbers, but for her planning. I structured it across 3 countries to minimize exposure and avoid double taxation, she explains. It took years of planning and risk, but it was worth it. Today, Sofia is an international philanthropist working to promote economic literacy among young women across Latin America. Among the earliest known exchanges was that of a former oil analyst named George Kim from California. George had worked as an economic advisor to an international oil consortium operating in southern Iraq during the late 2000s. When he saw the direction of post-sanctions Iraq, he quietly started acquiring IQD through bank-authorized channels. By 2015, he had amassed more than 250 million dinar. He retired early, waited, and kept in contact with regulatory attorneys and off-market bankers. When the revaluation hit, George was already in Dubai for a pre-arranged appointment. His exchange was one of the first completed outside of Iraq. Total payout, $1.5 billion. His identity has been protected for legal and security reasons, but a close associate confirmed that George has since set up an energy-backed sovereign fund to support innovation in developing markets. He never wanted to flash wealth, the associate says. He wanted to change the world. Now he can. The stories vary in size, background, and path, but the common thread is preparation. Most early exchangers were not reckless gamblers. They were cautious, informed, and strategic. They tracked political developments, studied economic models, followed real-time rate data, and built support networks. They knew that when the moment came, only those with verified holdings, proper documentation, and legal structure would move smoothly. And they were right. Not everyone exchanged through banks. Some early investors, particularly those outside the U.S., used verified currency brokers, international redemption houses, and even peer-reviewed escrow platforms to process their IQD. The key was legitimacy. Most used certified dealers, verified serials, authenticated storage facilities, and third-party audits. Security was paramount. Early exchanges were done discreetly, often under NDA, with some taking place in secure government-backed financial centers. Redemption protocols were often multi-step, with identity verification, anti-fraud processes, and staged fund releases to prevent market manipulation and illicit activity. Those who followed compliance guidelines were able to participate fully. The stories of Dinar Millionaires continue to grow. From teachers and truck drivers to engineers and retirees, the list of those who turned small purchases into generational wealth is growing. But along with it comes responsibility. Several early investors have already formed private groups to help others prepare for the post-exchange phase: asset protection, philanthropy, tax planning, and impact investing. While the revaluation has created sudden wealth, it has also exposed the importance of education and community. Many early exchangers are now using their resources to give back. Foundations, educational endowments, housing initiatives, and global development funds are all being seeded by individuals who once sat quietly in the background, waiting for their moment. What was once a fringe investment has become a mainstream headline. News outlets, economists, and even government officials are now analyzing the unexpected impact of the dinar surge. It's shifted currency models, challenged monetary policy assumptions, and shown that sometimes, unconventional bets can pay off, with the right research, timing, and integrity. The dinar millionaires weren't chasing hype. They were planting seeds. And now, those seeds have grown into a harvest beyond imagination. Whether you're a believer still holding IQD or someone watching from the sidelines, these stories stand as a testament. Those who study, prepare, and act with wisdom may one day rewrite their financial future in ways even they never dreamed possible. Like and subscribe Dinar Community Channel for more videos.